Isekai anime. The controversial anime trope of being teleported into another world with strange beings and superpowers. Sounds interesting, right? Well, truth be told, I've always hated isekai animes. Every time I tried to watch one, I always got extremely bored and disinterested by the lack of personality the MC has, or the female characters who are just reduced to waifu bait. But now that I'm older and my frontal lobe has fully developed, I decided, why not at least give it a chance? I mean, I haven't tried to watch an isekai since I was like 12. So I decided to do some research on some of the most popular isekais when I came across this article titled Top 10 Worst Isekai Animes. That's when a light bulb went off. What if, instead of only watching what people consider the best isekais worth watching, but I also watched the worst ones as well? And let's just say it was definitely an interesting week. Today I will be discussing Season 1 of ReZero in our Best Isekai category, and Season 1 of Harem in a Labyrinth of Another World in our Worst category. There will be mild spoilers ahead, so please skip this video if you plan on watching either shows, and as always, feel free to like, subscribe, and comment about any ideas you would like to see from me, and if you like either of these shows as well. In all honesty, I have never once consumed any media of ReZero. I always knew that it was a pretty popular isekai and an anime in general, but nothing ever really came across my feed unless it was cosplay related. So, that being said, I was going into ReZero completely blind of any plot or minimal characters. The first episode starts off with introducing our main character, Subaru, and shows him being teleported from a convenience store in Japan to the world of Lagunica, where he's very quick to adjust to his new fate and tries to find his way to fit into this new world he was pulled into. During the episode, he ends up discovering that he has the ability to revive at specific random points in time after he is killed, which ends up being one of the focal points of the show. As the season progresses, we're introduced to more main characters of the series, such as Emilia, who is a magical silver-haired half-elf, and as well as Subaru's main love interest, Puck, who is Emilia's spirit companion, Reinhardt, who is known as the Sword Saint and the most powerful swordsman, Rem and Ram, who are twin sisters and maids for the Rosewall Mansion, and Beatrice, who is the caretaker of the Rosewall Mansion's Forbidden Library. The plot of ReZero follows Subaru working through different mysteries for his recurring deaths with the cast of characters and discovering more about each other and deepening the connections they have with each other and their individual powers. The characters are all so interesting and they all have their own personalities, and I love the way they all interact with each other. Their relationships are so dynamic, not one necessarily being the same as the others, such as Subaru's relationship with Emilia, the twins' relationships with each other, or Beatrice's relationship with Puck. It all makes the characters feel so much more three-dimensional and realistic, and that's something about animes that personally draws me in the most. Another thing about the series I can appreciate is that Subaru isn't portrayed to be this super OP guy that immediately knows how to fight effectively, or even really knows how his powers work off the jump. I'm personally so used to animes immediately making characters super powerful and strong that it was genuinely refreshing to see Subaru actually navigating his powers in a reasonable time frame that made sense. ReZero has so many amazing qualities that I was truly shocked by how much I enjoyed it. The first episode completely drew me in, and as the season progressed, I was genuinely so in love with the characters and world building. The animation is beautiful, the characters are wonderful and all so interesting to learn about, and the world is so beautifully developed that it just draws you in with its colors and buildings and its map. Everything is amazing about the show. However, with every great show, there has to be its unfortunately terrible counterpart. This anime is another one that I had never once consumed any content of, But unlike ReZero or other popular isekais, I had never actually once heard about Harem in the Labyrinth of Another World. Now, as I mentioned earlier in the video, I had come across an article ranking the worst isekais, and that was how I came across this one, which was ranked number 1 worst isekai. Now, obviously that's a big title to place onto an anime, and as someone who has an unfortunate talent for consuming slop content, I knew I just had to watch this, especially for this video. The first episode starts off with our main character Michio, a high school student who finds himself waking up in the world of a video game where he discovers he has been placed in a farm village being raided by bandits. After discovering this, he finds a sword he spawned in with and fights off these bandits very easily and earns the respect of the villagers who then help him understand a bit more about how the world works. Something happens where one of the villagers steals a bandana from a bandit that Michio had killed, which follows the thief being sold as a slave, which then leads to Michio meeting his first companion, and as well as introducing us to the main plot of the story. The first companion we are introduced to is Roxanne, a wolfkin character that is also kept as a slave and is eventually sold to Michio and is as well as his love interest. As the show continues, we are introduced to more female characters such as Vesta, Miria, Sherry, and Rutina, all slaves eventually owned by Michio. Now, okay, I have a lot of things to say about this show and how I feel about it. To begin, the show and concept is just so uninteresting. It barely has any plot, and Michio is just a boring main character without any personality besides being a literal pervert. His only motivations throughout the show are based off sexual intentions towards the women he owns, which I won't even begin to explain why that's weird. Not only that, but the female characters are also so lackluster. They all only exist for the pure purpose of being lusted over by Michio, which, yeah, makes sense considering the content, but God, I at least wish they had some personality. And not only that, they're all literally minors. And why? Why do they need to be minors? One thing I can say is that the designs are pretty cute of the girls. And if I didn't know anything about this show and had just seen the designs, I would probably be pretty interested in. But seeing that the entire concept is based off women being sex slaves to this 16-year-old boy, I'm glad I wasn't introduced to the characters before I seen this. Now, obviously, I'm not the audience for this based on how centered around female nudity this show is, and that's perfectly fine. But that's not what I care about the most. Not only are the characters just oddly underage and could easily be aged up to adults, but it's just not good. The plot and dialogue are so underwhelming, and the animation barely picks up any of the show's slack because it's nothing special either. Listen, I love goon slop content as much as the next guy, but I'd prefer when my goon slop content has some content, you know? Overall, I think ReZero is genuinely amazing and is such a good isekai to start off with to pull yourself not only into anime but the genre itself, but the same cannot be said about Labyrinth of Another World. In my opinion, there really isn't any comparison between the two, seeing as ReZero has an actual concrete plot and characters while Labyrinth does not. ReZero not only has great content, but it's so beautifully animated and colored, which I think really adds to the appeal of the show. Like, look at some of these stills I got of ReZero and how gorgeous it is. To be blunt, I do think that Labyrinth of Another World is objectively bad. And I probably sound like a broken record saying it, but it's so lacking. This show is clearly meant to be gooner bait, which, okay, have your gooner bait, but the ages just add another level of weirdness that not even the content of the show itself can reach. all in all, I think ReZero has really changed my opinion on isekais and has pulled me into the genre even more. Obviously, every genre is going to have its bad seed that gives it a bad rep, but there is always a gem to be found. I obviously will continue to watch more ReZero and dip my feet into the extensive world of isekai animes. And who knows, maybe if this video does well, I'll do a part 2 of this video and watch the second worst isekai. With that being said though, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, subscribe, and comment down below if you have any more anime, manga, or video game related ideas you would like to see me talk about next. Bye bye!
What the dog doing?